I never really felt like I was totally part of the Hope family. When I say like never, I really mean it. Absolutely never took me anywhere. Right when we got to France, actually, the American students there told us that they had their school burnt down due to the protests that were going on, and the organization that took us there didn't really do anything about it. He also told us that he wasn't getting fed at all. Another student told us that sometimes his laundry would go missing. Like, he would give his host family he would ask his host family to do his laundry. Slowly but surely, items would go missing. Or the on-site director there kept just trying to tell her that she just needs to get used to it and things like that. Many times she would be very passively or actively aggressive to people that were there, and so I over time became actually afraid of this person. Hey guys, my name is Lorena. I am gonna be talking about my experience abroad. So let's get into this video. I do want to emphasize that I mean no harm to the organizations. That this video is meant to serve as an aid for parents and students that are considering going abroad. This sounds already like a story time video, but it kind of is. I started my planning process of going abroad last May, and that's when I started out filling the applications for it. I actually ended up going with the organization called CIEE, which is the Council on International Educational Exchange, that is based in Portland, Oregon. So that's that. I was lucky enough to find the program early enough so that I was able to and I got a free trip along with that I actually never ended up using, and I also got a scholarship. I don't feel like it's necessary to include the costs in this video, but if you would like to do more research on trips abroad, then I will just leave a link to the organization that I traveled with down below. So this whole planning process started in May, and I kind of knew I was going to go on the trip by June. By December, we started getting emails about the trip and how it was going to go, and of course, I was excited, but I was also not sure of how I was gonna do in the process, just because the entire semester, the first semester of school, I was taking care of college applications. I was still taking care of senior year and, managing extracurriculars and things like that. So the time that we actually left, which was January 20th, by that point I was actually pretty exhausted from school. But either way, I knew that this was an experience of a lifetime and that I really wanted to take advantage of it, and of course I didn't want to back out. So I ended up going. I packed everything a month beforehand to make sure that I had planned everything accordingly, that I had, everything that I really needed, because France during the winter and spring is very cold, or at least colder than I'm used to. So by the time that I actually got to the airport, we ended up meeting in New Jersey. So when we all met up in Newark, we actually met someone there that was able to bring us into a flight and actually flew in with us until we reached our final destination, which was Toulouse, France. I met with all the students that I was traveling with. There were people that are going only for the trimester and people that are going for the semester-long program. It was a pretty smooth trip overall. So as far as people goes, the students that I traveled with were really wonderful, and honestly everything seemed really smooth to begin with, but once we got to France it was a little bit different. We ended up landing in Lisbon first, and then we flew into Toulouse, France. I do want to preface this whole thing by saying that I've actually been abroad. I went recently to Uruguay last summer, to South America, and it was a fully paid trip, and I just want to say that trip was a million times better than this trip, unfortunately. Once we got to France, it was a pretty quick process of immediately kind of go to your families type of thing. There was really no process to adjust to the fact that we were in a new country. We were immediately placed with our host families, and that first day it was okay because I was really tired, so I really didn't associate with I didn't really get to know my host family that much. My host family presented me with a house and the people that were living there, and Quickly after, my host father informed me that there was going to be another foreign exchange student coming in that day from Brazil. I ended up getting along really well with the Brazilian foreign exchange student. She was 3 years older than me. She was really great, and I'm really happy that I was her that was in that host family. It could have been someone else. Once my Brazilian friend left after the first month, it was really it sucked. So the whole process of going into that house though was a little bit intimidating just because there were 3 boys. So I never really felt like I was totally part of the Hope family. I remember the only activity that we really did together was eat dinner. On top of that, the family had numerous, like plenty of mementos, maybe that's the right word, from the US because they had hosted so many American foreign exchange students there. So I immediately felt like my experience, like what I was bringing to the table, they had heard before. They never really asked what my hobbies were. They never really tried to get to know me, which was honestly a little bit unfortunate. But I had other encounters, you know. At one point, my host father told me that I asked him how how French people interpret or perceive American accents, and he just kind of went off and started mocking the way that Americans speak, which obviously is not the best thing to do to a 17-year-old who's coming into your household as a foreign exchange student from that country. He literally started speaking like he was a farmer in Old West, right? I didn't say anything then, but to justify what he had just said, actually, before we get to that, after he said that, his little host, my little host brother, who was 8 years old, he even noticed that he was mocking me, and he literally just said it in French, and he said, "Ha ha ha, you're mocking her." If an 8-year-old can acknowledge what you're doing and you can't. Immediately after, he tried to justify his actions by saying that it's just that the way that he had perceived Americans is just the way that French people perceive the difference between people from Spain, the Spanish from Spain, and the Spanish from Mexico. So, newsflash, Mexico didn't choose to be conquered by the Spaniards, okay? Also, it's unfair for you to, there's just so, like, but there is no reason for me to say this, because any, like, respectable person wouldn't do that, right? But I guess that's just the way that he thought, and that's okay. I can't change anything at this point. There's also no point in me trying to debate or argue with a man that was 3 times my age. You guys, the difference between my host family in Uruguay, this is like how we text. Like, this is how much we've texted. It's literally so much. Like, they regularly send me pictures of my host siblings. My family in France, we stopped talking as soon as I left. We barely talked in the first place. That's it. That's all we talked. And the only reason why we talked would be dinner's ready or I'm on my way home. That's the only reason why we would talk. It consisted of 3 stories plus a basement. And the father informed me that they actually sort of rent the studio apartment in the basement, 1 restroom in the household. When I first got there, I really didn't think much of it, but having only 1 toilet is extremely unfortunate.
Thinking about these YouTube videos that, like, I would talk about.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
To get anywhere in France, in my city, you have to take public transportation, especially because my host family, when I say like never, I really mean it, absolutely never took me anywhere. So never in using the car, especially using the car. The only time that I actually traveled with my host family was when the mom and the father, maybe one time they showed me how to get to school and then how to get to the center of the city, and that was it. That was one time. And so not that many times. I was used to taking public transportation, and it was honestly a great lesson for me to learn how to manage all that, but it was obviously not the most convenient thing. With wet hair, I waited outside for like 30 minutes to an hour waiting for this bus on a Saturday I remember it was a Saturday because the protests were so bad that they closed down the transportation for like the trams, which is like it's practically a subway but on land. So it was really convenient if you think about it, but it was closed on Saturday, so I had to take the bus, which was okay, but I had to wait 30 minutes to an hour with wet hair. It was raining, windy, foggy. I just remember being a little bit sad about that in that moment because there was really no other way to do this, and I didn't want to be home alone because I felt like being busy is, you know, staying busy and trying to enjoy your time and filling up your time is much better than, you know, sitting in your bed and like thinking about how life would be in the US. Of course, so I ended up getting sick, but it wasn't until I started bleeding from my nose. Until that point, that's when my host family finally agreed to take me, or not even take me, but to agree for me to see a doctor in the first place. So I was obviously very worried. You know, this seems like a lot, but now I want to move on to tips that I wish I had known when I was in France, and for any foreign exchange trip in general. My main big thing is just to be aware of the fact that you're going to be staying with a host family. If you are, just be aware of your living circumstances. I had to share one toilet and one actual like shower, half functioning shower with 5 other people, so just be aware of that. But it was inconvenient at times, especially when at one point I actually had food poisoning. So, you know, there are just some circumstances that will arise that can be really uncomfortable. So I just had to develop tactics to you know, just take care of things on my own. Be open-minded about who you will meet and try to have low expectations. The third thing that I would be aware of would be just the weather. I don't know if this is going to make a big difference for you. There were other stories that came out of this, but I just really do your research when you're going abroad. I really hope that this helps you guys. This isn't easy, and going abroad is not easy, especially if you're going for more than a month. Anyway, I hope that this helps a little bit. The reality of going abroad, right? It got me to experience France in an actually real way, very real way. And it also facilitated my way of speaking in French. So that's really like the biggest goal that I got to, you know. And I also met really wonderful people. My classmates, I just want to shout out Clayson and Asala, were 2 homies that I met in France. So honestly, yeah, there are some really, really great people that you can meet in your foreign exchange program, but I would just definitely make sure to research really what you're getting into outside of the company's website. I tried looking for reviews, but I really didn't find anything. I really am just seeing positive reviews here. Oh, just kidding. Okay, I'm now reading. So after filming this video, I actually went in and looked a little bit more at the Yelp reviews, and this is some of the content that I found. Yeah, it's actually pretty disturbing, and I feel really bad about not looking at this beforehand. CIEE seems like a reliable company, but based on these reviews, I would really not recommend doing this again. And although I'm happy that everything went well in the end, I wouldn't do this again. The worst part of this is that I actually can see a lot of where this is coming from. So, and it's really interesting because a lot of what I said in this video matches up with a lot of other students' and parents' experiences. They never found out about that. They never really asked what my hobbies were. They never really tried to get to know me, which was honestly a little bit unfortunate. Family, when I say like never, I really mean it. Absolutely never took me anywhere. The on-site director that was there when I was there was the most unfriendly person. The only reason why my mom let me go abroad in the first place was because she knew that there were people there that whose jobs were to make sure that I was okay. And I barely got any of that. One of my friends tried to get credit for something, and the director or the on-site director there kept just trying to tell her that she just needs to get used to it and things like that. Many times she would be very passively or actively aggressive to people that were there, and so I over time became actually afraid of this person. I just don't feel like that's the person for the job, but I don't want to really speak on this anymore. This was a lot. This was a lot. Okay. I do feel like they gave me very valuable lessons, and of course I don't regret doing all of this, but I just wish I had been more informed before this process started. If you guys want me to make more videos on this topic, then let me know. But with all that said, I hope you guys have a great day, and yeah. Okay, bye.